Not too bright, folks. Not too fucking bright.
But now we're getting to it. I agree with everything except the bottom line. I mean, let's take a really harsh institution that we don't argue about, slavery. Okay, nobody thinks slavery was good, I presume. Nevertheless, everything that you just said could be said about slavery. I mean, if you took a look at the plantation economy, there were masters who were very decent people. They treated the slaves very nicely. In fact, they were treated better than free workers, much better. They were allowed to live their family lives, you know. I mean, they didn't beat them up or anything. But it didn't matter. It was slavery. And maybe some of them, you know, gave money to the church and did all kind of decent things. Probably they did, you know, nice people. But the trouble was the institution. The institution was wrong. It doesn't matter whether you do it nicely or not nicely. People, you know, the idea that a person should be owned is just an intolerable infringement on human rights, whether the person who owns them is nice to them or not. And, you know, in the 19th century, it was widely recognized that the same is true if people are rented. It's an intolerable infringement on people's rights, even if the guy who rents you is nice to you. The question is whether decisions over investment, production, distribution, what happens on the shop floor, conditions of work, all that kind of stuff, whether those decisions should be out of public control.
I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions.
So what do we have inside each enterprise? A little king, an owner, a manager, a board of directors, a king and his court, who run everything, who make all the key decisions, what to produce, how to produce, where to produce, and what to do with the profits everybody in the enterprise helps to produce.
Wage slavery, which they regarded as not very different from chattel slavery. In fact, this was such a popular view that it was actually a slogan of the Republican Party, that the only difference between working for a wage and being a slave is that working for a wage is supposedly temporary.
The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street.
Well, that's classical liberal thought, you know. They don't tell you that in the Chicago school. But that's classical any more than they tell you what Adam Smith really said, which is very different from what's claimed. But that's classical liberal thought, and it's because it was driven by, you know, concepts of human rights and human dignities which are seriously infringed by the structure of business operations, even if the guys who run it are nice guys. You go back to the 19th century when there was a live, popular, libertarian working class movement, and you will read in the Knights of Labor statement publications that wage slavery is not all that different from slavery. In fact, if you bother to go back to the origins of democratic thought, you know, you really read the classics, like John Stuart Mill. He says the leading principle of his, you know, the great classical liberal, you know, the origin of the whole business. The leading principle of his thought is that human beings are born to, he said, to inquire and create and to create under their own initiative. If any work that a person does under outside pressure is inhuman. If a person creates something beautiful under outside orders, we may admire what he does, but we will despise what he is, even if the guys who run it are nice guys. You can't be a nice guy in certain positions because the institution is not nice.
They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.
This is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington, we are coming to get our check. He merely exists. We are demanding an emergency program to provide a guaranteed annual income at levels that sustain life in decent circumstances. This is a new beginning on the economic front.
By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
The realistic fact is that we still have a long, long way to go. Now, I'm not one to lose hope. I keep on hoping. I still have faith in the future. Now we're going to march again, and we've got to march again. People will come to see that not only is something wrong in general, but something is wrong in particular in their own economic situations. Constantly trying to make ends meet, but because of either no job or a job that is so economically unprofitable that the person can't make ends meet. And I think they see all of these things, and more they are coming to see them.
If it's too difficult for you to hear me out, then it's a sign that I'm getting to you.
Thanks. We're good. Please keep going.
Please hear out Professor Wolf.
Not too bright, folks. Not too fucking bright. Someone's losing fucking ground here. But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this.